Welcome into the Climate Tech NFL Prediction Show. It is Super Bowl weekend, and before we get going here, we want to remind everybody to swing by Climate Tech Inc. Again, fans, last week we saw a huge amount of snow. Hey, I bet you checked your heater a couple times, right? Well, don't mess around with the hot and cold weather, whatever it is. They have you covered. Hot water tanks, heaters, installations, they do it all. Again, Climate Tech Inc. over on 7900 Root Road. Find them online, climate-tech.com. I am Vince McKee with Key on Sports, joined as always by my friend here, Cole McDaniel, my co-host, I should say. And Cole, here we are. I was doing the math in my head. 17-week regular season, actually 18 this year. Playoffs, the bye week between the championship games and the Super Bowl. So we've been doing this, I mean, my goodness, almost half a year.
We have. It has been half a year. It has been a full year, that is for sure, in the sense of a lot of great action. We've had a lot of great games. We've had the ups and downs with you and I back and forth with the predictions and and with who was actually leading there. Again, you ended up coming out on top in the long run, but
Thanks
the whole first half of the season, really, again, it was going my way. So, but we split a lot that later part of the season where we were picking very similar on a lot of those games. So
more often than not.
Yeah, honestly, it was a really good season, and we were on the same page with a lot of things throughout the entire year of what teams we thought were good, who could have some success. It's one of those things where it's always fun when we have our disagreements and things, but I think this year we were both really on the same page with most everything.
Absolutely. And, the unique part about this was we switched it up a little bit for the show where we did the Sunday night game, the Browns game, an upset game, but we were still making the picks, all 16 games every week and whatnot. And when you think about that amount of games, right, over 18 weeks, 16 games a week, most weeks, and the fact that our final difference was only 6 points, that's incredible. And that shows you the parity, right? Where last year, there was still a little bit of parity. There was a COVID year, a double-digit spread between us. But this year, I mean, so tight, really down to kind of the final week as we had in the playoffs. So, I think this was the kind of season the NFL wanted to kind of pull everybody back in. I'm sure the ratings were sky high. You couldn't really ask for much more. This was definitely a season, too, like we talked about, where it really did come down to week 17, 18 for a lot of teams. I was thinking about today when I wrote that article, that game between the Raiders and the Chargers that everybody wanted to end in a tie,
Right.
So, excellent drama.
And it could have. I mean, they tried, but we're a long way past that. But before we get into the Super Bowl, again, it's going to be a short show this time because last one of the year. Again, we want to thank everybody who's tuned in, watched, and listened all year. Again, we're excited that next year it's going to continue on YouTube. Going to get bigger and better next year, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
This is just the initial switch from Pod being here the last couple weeks here in the playoffs. So we're looking forward to next year. Again, want to also thank Climate Tech again for being on board for next year as well. But do want to touch on these last couple games that happened. The AFC Championship game, the NFC Championship game. Again, just the Super Bowl to cover this week, but a couple things to address with those. And Vince, let's start with the NFC. What were your thoughts on that one?
Really, I think Matthew Stafford came of age, right? This is a former number one pick. They got down late, I know that fourth quarter down 10, I believe it was, and didn't panic, didn't start throwing the deep balls, stuck to their game plan, typical Sean McVay offense, phenomenal game plan in that fourth quarter, and really in a game in that situation, the better team was going to win. And I think we finally figured it out. The 49ers had beaten them twice throughout the regular season, but that was my takeaway from that game, that the Rams didn't panic. They're in a situation now where they're going to be going against a very young team, against the Cincinnati Bengals, where we've talked about all year long the Cincinnati Bengals have played up. And what I mean by that is they've looked older than they are, right? In a good way, more mature, more experienced, more seasoned. But that is my takeaway from that NFC Championship game was again, that veteran leadership, the fact that they didn't panic, stuck to the game plan, and then had to play defense, and that's been their strength all year. We know about the flashy names. We know about the OBJs and the Matt Staffords, but really – I always want to say the St. Louis Rams, the Los Angeles Rams play defense when they need to do the most.
Yeah, they really do. And, Aaron Donald is that flashy name there on the defense, but they have a lot of other pieces. Something about that defense, again, they're tough. They haven't maybe been as threatening as they have in some other past years. But again, a lot of that has to do with some of the talent that they lost. And actually, two of those guys in the secondary are now Cleveland Browns at this point. But their team's still good overall. Again, Jordan Fuller's injury didn't necessarily help in the secondary, but Eric Weddle comes out of retirement. They bring him in. He's performed pretty well from coming out of retirement.
And that was a low-risk move, too.
Yeah.
On both parties.
It was. And for him, I think he knew it was a good opportunity where he felt well enough to be able to go out there, play, perform, and let's just say it was an easy opportunity when you're right at the end of the season. It's like, I don't have too many games to actually play. There's not as much of a risk, but there's a lot of reward because we're so close to the Super Bowl already.
Sure.
So that defense is super tough, and that's something to pay attention to, especially with that front seven going up against a fairly weak Bengals offensive line. It's better than what it was last year, but it's being masked by the talent around them. Again, Mixon's playing the best season he's ever played at running back. Burrow's been electric, and he has wide receivers who are getting open. If he is to hold on to that ball a little bit longer, that could spell trouble, and we will wait and see if that Rams defense again can generate that pressure.
And what did we see in the Super Bowl last year?
Yeah.
The pressure on Mahomes, Kansas City crumbled. So if the Rams could get that same pressure on the Bengals.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we will see there. But no, I think what you said is spot on. You're used to LA and flashiness and flashy names. And that's why OBJ gets the attention, and Cooper Kupp gets the attention just because he's really good at this point because he's a star, and he should. But you're seeing even Matthew Stafford. Matt Stafford's even flying under the radar. Again, they're leaving his picture out of promotions and things like that when he is clearly a great quarterback. I mean, he is really good, and I think we talked about this. He's been on that upper middle tier to lower elite tier, and he's really been there.
Indeed.
It's just his ability was limited with the Detroit Lions and that organization. And now it's finally coming to fruition with the Rams and all that talent around him that it's just piecing together. And it's like, yes, this is who we thought Matt Stafford was. And we're truly seeing it. But I have to give him a lot of credit. And even guys like Sony Michel. I want to give Sony Michel a lot of credit because he's a guy who kind of battling for that starting running back position. Darrell Henderson ended up being that guy. Michelle hardly touched the ball to start the year, and everybody thought it was going to be some sort of 1-2 punch there, and it wasn't. Henderson goes down. Akers was already down and out. Michelle stepped up, and again, that is one of those big things where some of those guys are flying under the radar.
And look at who Michelle played for.
Yeah.
Nick Saban. Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
If there was ever a plug-in guy, you want him to come from those two systems.
Right. So there's a lot of guys to give credit for. And we talked about it, the 49ers. Again, they beat the Rams twice. Can you beat a division rival 3 times? It's nearly impossible, especially on the road. When the Rams have home field advantage, and they know that if they win, they've got home field advantage again, you were climbing a mountain. And as much as it would have been cool to see the Bengals and the Niners because of that old school game and the history, it really wasn't meant to be, and it felt like it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, too. I was thinking about this on the drive over. To me, we heard a lot about this really more so in like late October, mid-November, and especially when they got like Von Miller and OBJ. Everybody was saying the Rams are playing to win now. They're building this team to win now. Well, here you go. They're in the Super Bowl. So that philosophy worked.
Right.
It's such a direct contrast. And I like both these teams. Both these teams are solid as a rock. But the Bengals are so young, right? So at the same time, it's like the Bengals might have that in the back of their mind where obviously it's the Super Bowl, you want to win and all those good things. But they have a little bit of a security blanket knowing that if it doesn't happen this year, so maybe the focus won't be 100%. Maybe it will. We'll see in a couple days. But the Rams, I really think right now are probably more focused in than they've ever been in their lives. And quite a few of those guys on the team played, in the most boring Super Bowl ever a few years ago.
13-3, awful,
against the Patriots.
Terrible.
So it was bad. So they have those, they have that seasoning, right? They have a little bit of that. Hey, we can't take this for granted type mentality. And that was a team too. Go back and look at the stats. Cole, I think the Rams that year were putting up like 35 points a game plus. Right, so they know like, hey, it's not going to come easy. Let's go out there and get it. I think, and I'm not giving away my prediction yet. We'll get to that in a second. But certainly to me, And to me, I think that's the main contrast with these two teams. If you're, if somebody would say to me, who will win more Super Bowls before they retire, Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford? 9 out of 10 people are going to say Joe Burrow, but is he going to win this Super Bowl? And I think that's what's going to come down to.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to say that.
Yeah.
Reality is, though, if you're talking about this this Bengals team in a loaded AFC, as good as Joe Burrow is, it's going to be a gauntlet. Is he going to be a Phillip Rivers type of guy where he's constantly on a good team? They get into the playoffs every year, but they struggle getting to this point. That's a possibility if he's there in Cincinnati, permanently.
That's
because
a loaded question.
we'll wait and see on that. People are going to automatically assume that it's Joe Burrow, but I think if they don't get this one, then I would actually take the standpoint of Matt Stafford, or that they tie and they both end up with one, maybe in the long run.
Well, I'll say this.
It's a lot.
I'll say this, too, due to the recent retirement of Tom Brady and everything else going on in the NFC.
Right.
We joked around a little bit on Twitter about it, but think about it like this, too. Joe Burrow, right? Like right now, has to compete with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, the guy that me and you love, Justin Herbert.
Herbert.
I'm sorry. I'm so used to the guy who played for the Falcons. Anyways, years ago, that's showing my age again. But legitimately, though, right? So those three guys, he knows he's going to have to compete with. And yes, the Chargers didn't make the playoffs this year. I get it. But to me, they're still a loaded team. So he has that, right? Where Matthew Stafford kind of doesn't. When you really, we're going to have, shows in between now and the draft. But when you really start breaking down the NFC, the Rams could go on a roll here because a lot of teams in the NFC are going to take a step back. We still don't know what's going to happen to Russell Wilson. Tom Brady just retired. Obviously, Drew Brees isn't coming out of retirement anytime soon for the Saints. So you look at it like that, you don't know. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's so talented, no matter what, he's talented. But there's no guarantee he's going to stick in the NFC. So it's going to be fun.
Well, he'd be foolish to go to the AFC when it's a
I don't know why
it's
would.
a gauntlet. Yeah,
well, he's got an ego on him, so who knows? He just does.
Who knows? Absolutely. If you're Aaron Rodgers, stick in the NFC.
I would.
Even if you leave the Packers, try to find someone in the NFC. Of course, they're not going to want you to go to a Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit. Those are out of the question. Packers aren't going to want you in their division. But
Dak Prescott, I would say, is the best young quarterback right now in the NFC. And there might be somebody that's so glaringly obvious I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. But can you think of a better, quote-unquote, young quarterback stud in the NFC right now, other than Dak Prescott? We like Justin Fields, but he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a long way to go.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually say I like Kyler Murray better than Dak Prescott at this point. Kyler Murray's had his ups and downs.
True.
There's something about Dak that I just don't trust him. Again, he puts up decent numbers, but do I actually think he makes those big elite plays?
Well, we saw that he didn't.
No.
In the most opportune moment to not screw up.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
I would actually say Dak Prescott, again, is just he's upper middle tier guy. And that's just about what he is. And he's got good weapons around him and a defense that actually gets turnovers. So, yes, Kyler Murray has had his downs. And I can't believe I'm saying this because I thought he was going to be a guy, Kyler Murray, who I was like, just stick to baseball. Don't play football. I don't think it's going to work. And I would have to say that I actually do prefer him over Dak at this point. But I'm just not impressed with the NFC. And we'll see what happens. Again, Russell Wilson, I'd like to see him change teams, but I'd like to see him still stick in the NFC still because I'd hate to see him go to the AFC.
And I think he will too.
Yeah.
To me, football's so different than basketball.
Right.
Basketball, I can't stand the NBA anymore. You see the biggest names today traded like nothing, right? There goes Harden, there goes Ben Simmons, and it's like there's no loyalty, there's none of that. In football, almost always, Tom Brady was such the exception going from the AFC to the NFC. You almost never see that. You either see the veteran quarterback stick with the same franchise his entire career or play actually sometimes within his division when he leaves or within the conference. It's very, very seldom that type of thing happens where you see an elite quarterback, take off. I really think what would be best for, Russell Wilson is for him to stay put, quite frankly. But if he doesn't, I like to see him on the Falcons, quite frankly. I think he might be able to make an impact on that team that Matt Ryan really has in the last few years.
I don't know. Staying put is a really bad decision. What's the only division that has a bunch of strength right now
Well,
in the
West.
NFC.
Although we talked about it a few weeks ago, and fans, I'm sure you remember this because me and Cole are on the same page here. Really, the ideal destination for Russell Wilson, the New Orleans Saints.
New Orleans Saints.
In a heartbeat.
Yep.
But
I think it's a really good fit.
Yep.
Though we'll see what happens at running back for them. That changes a little bit with a playmaker at running back with Kamara, and we'll see how much legal trouble he continues to find himself in after his his situation with the Pro Bowl. But getting back to the AFC, one thing to touch on right before we talk about the Super Bowl, we talked about the Bengals a little bit. We talked a lot about the NFC. We talked a lot about quarterbacks in general. We just felt that at some point, obviously streaks come to an end.
Yep.
Not shocking that a streak came to the end for the Chiefs. But are you surprised, because I'm a little bit surprised, that they blew such a big lead?
I don't know, because their defense was shaky all year to me. We've talked about it. I'm not shocked. Bengals come in fearless. They've never been there before.
Right.
You know, they had beaten them a few weeks ago. So I'm not completely shocked by that fact happening. It is a little weird that they couldn't keep scoring points, though. Zero faith in their defense.
Yeah.
But why did you stop scoring points? To me, that's off.
It's like they mailed it in.
Yeah, and then once they got to overtime, I don't know what that play was. I mean, Mahomes wings it down the field. Like, what are you doing? You know, like, you've shown 100 times that you could piece together a 6-play drive, no problem, score a touchdown. Right? He went for a home run ball. I don't know why, and it got picked off. And granted, it was an amazing interception for that to happen, but still,
it was.
I don't know what was going on there with some of that play calling.
Yeah, I'm not sure there. It was almost like again he was trying to eat a little bit too much there off the plate, and maybe a little bit of confidence, you know, and maybe a little bit of arrogance that he could fit that in. But Von Bell, I have to give him a lot of credit. Former Ohio State safety, was on that national championship team. Again, his bounce around a little bit, was at the Saints, now at the Bengals. Again, performing well, and that's a huge play by him, and
Absolutely.
actually quite a few Buckeyes in this Super Bowl. So for all the Ohio State fans out there, again, that's something to enjoy.
Well, that makes you happy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is one thing that is good to see. It's good to see some of those guys get to play. So we will see what happens with the Super Bowl coming up. But before we talk about the actual game, I want to give a shout out to our guy Dominic Clary out there in LA with Baldwin Wallace Sports Management. Again, I just so happen to be wearing Baldwin Wallace here right now, but one of those things where that's a great opportunity for them. Again, they always go out to the Super Bowl, get to work out there, explore, do some things. So seen some pictures out there, and I know you and I both wanted to give him a shout out here.
He's having a good time.
Yep. Yeah.
He's been texting me and everything, and I think he forgets there's a 3-hour time difference. But, you know, I don't sleep.
Right.
And Cole's starting to find my ways of no sleep this week, too. So, yeah, the time difference doesn't matter this week. But no, all joking aside, man, we are so proud of Dom.
Yep.
He'd said, I told him, I said, hey, look, I just want a shot glass. You know, if you can give me that Super Bowl shot glass. So he said he's going to at least give me a cup. You know.
Right. We'll see if it can top the shot glass. I got you from Key West.
Yeah.
We will wait and see on that one.
We won't expound. Yeah.
So Rams Bengals here this week, and we're gonna make our picks. I know you're itching to make your pick. Sure. Almost did just a little bit ago.
Yeah. If I didn't make it obvious, but it's okay.
Yeah. Vince, go ahead. We'll toss it to you. You can make your pick since you almost made it obvious earlier.
The Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah.
For the reasons of their defense again and the veteran leadership. To me, this seems like if you go a ways back, though, and again, here we go, you know, grandfather over here. I look back to the 2002 Super Bowl. Fans go back and look that up. Actually played in 2003, but it was the 2002 season with Rich Gannon and the Raiders. And kind of the same situation there where I would have picked the Raiders because of the veteran leadership on that team, everything they had going. Now, obviously, they got blown out by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I'm hedging my bet by saying that because to me it lines up again like the Raiders should have won that game easily, right? And they ended up getting blown out. To me, the Rams should win this game. It shouldn't be a blowout by any stretch. I don't think Joe Burrow would allow that. I also think Joe Burrow is wise above his years.
Right.
You know, I don't think he's going to crack. He might throw an interception in the first quarter. I think he's going to go like this and get right back out there. I would be stunned, Cole, and I mean stunned if this game's a blowout. Like, I'd be shocked. Either way, I'd be
Yeah, it
shocked.
would be shocking.
But to me, I think it's going to be the running game of the Rams in a tight situation. If they need to run, I think they could.
Mhm.
And if they need to stop the run, their defense has shown that they could. I think it's going to come down to last possession. I'm not going to say field goal or touchdown or defensive stop. Something's going to happen, but I think basically I think this game's going to be interesting all the way down to the last minute. I really do.
Yeah, I do think it's going to be good. I definitely agree with you there. Again, you're going Rams, and I'm with you. I am going Rams as well. Here's the thing. I mean, either one, to me, it doesn't necessarily matter who wins in many ways, in my opinion. There are things I like about the Bengals team. There are things I like about the Rams team. Again, you have a bunch of people here that are rooting against the Bengals because they're in the division. I don't look at the Bengals as a rivalry like the Steelers and the Ravens with the Browns.
Even then, though, I don't want to keep cutting you off, but even then, it's stupid. Like, if anything, you want to root for somebody in your division to show you're playing with the strongest teams. You're telling me if an OAC team was going for a national championship, you wouldn't root for them?
It makes
Mount Union aside.
It makes your record better.
Yeah.
Realistically. And I don't know about Mount Union. To me, is not as big of a rival as John Carroll.
True.
John Carroll's the one that would be hard for me. But yeah, no.
Yeah.
Mount Union not as big of a deal. But in general, I am one of those. And let me just put it this way: you have some Ohio State fans who it's Michigan in the bowl games. They're still rooting against them. If Michigan's playing a team that's not in the Big Ten, I'm going to root for Michigan.
Me too.
Because it makes Ohio State look better.
Every time.
It makes the conference look better, which ultimately helps Ohio State with playoff committee and things along those lines.
Absolutely.
So unless it's a team in the Big Ten, I mean, honestly, for me, Michigan can go they can go 4-8 every year, and I'm going to be happy. There's 4 wins coming against non-conference opponents.
Yep.
But still, that makes it look better. So it's just one of those things where, realistically, that's kind of how I feel about this. The other thing as well, then you have the Rams on the other side where people are rooting against OBJ. I don't necessarily care so much because I'd actually be more happy for Matt Stafford.
Yes.
So for me, I'd be happy for Joe Burrow. I'd be happy for Matt Stafford. I like both of these quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. I'm just hoping for a good game realistically. And again, I'm going with the Rams here in this one. Here's how I think it's going to play out. Truly. Some people might think that we're going to see a ton of offense, and I actually think we're going to see a ton of yards.
Yes.
Despite a ton of yards, I still think the Rams are going to be a little bit of bend, don't break in the red zone. Mm-hmm. Maybe some of the weaknesses in the O-line causing some issues there. I just think we're going to see McPherson a little bit out there.
Yep.
We'll see how many he actually gets to kick, but I definitely see the potential of that. And then for the Rams, I think it could be going kind of that similar direction as well, where they get a lot of yards themselves as well.
Right.
But maybe the Bengals can come up with a play. Again, they've got pretty good edge rushers themselves as well. So we'll see what happens on that side of the ball if they can just continue to just push and push and push and get into the end zone consistently. But I don't think we're going to see 42-38 or anything like that. I think it's going to be lower. Mm-hmm. Here's what I do fully expect. I expect the Rams front to take a bit of advantage of the Bengals offensive line. I think there's going to be times where there's pressure. I actually think it's going to be tough for Joe Mixon to get much room. I actually think it's going to mostly be through the air that the Bengals perform. Now,
I agree.
Jalen Ramsey is going to be on Jamar Chase. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's going to lock him down, but I do think he is going to limit him. So who's the key in this for Joe Burrow? And I think the guy who's going to get the most receptions of any team, the most yards, is T. Higgins.
Yes.
Is my guess.
Also agreed.
T. Higgins is a big receiver. He's going to go up against a smaller cornerback on the opposite side from Jalen Ramsey. I think that he's going to be the key for the Bengals to move the ball. I think he's going to get a lot of touches. So that's my prediction. They'll get it to Higgins a lot. They'll still move the ball through the air. You might see C.J. Uzomah, tight end, get some touches as well.
But how healthy is he?
We'll wait and see about that. But again, he's expected to play. So I do think they're going to move the ball. As for the Rams on the other side of the field, again, I just think they're going to be able to get it done when it comes with Matt Stafford. I think their line's going to be a little bit more sure than the Bengals line. And I think that as much as I like that Bengals defense, the Bengals defense is mediocre. I mean, they're average. They've got some good things. They got some good edge rushers. They're decent against the run. They can make tackles. I mean, they do a lot of things well. Nothing great.
Right.
Nothing spectacular. Aside from Trey Hendrickson's had a really good season. But in general, I just don't know if they can stop Cooper Kupp. Along with that running game, along with a couple other guys. I could see Van Jefferson getting open. I don't think OBJ is going to have a huge game, but he'll get a couple catches here or there. I think they'll be able to consistently move the ball. That's why I have the Rams winning this one. Probably about 34-24, just about 10 points. Nothing crazy.
And you look at a couple of years ago, too. You mentioned Cooper Kupp. Last time they played in the Super Bowl, this is a guy who was a slot receiver.
Right.
I mean, he's stepped up through the roof, right? To me, again, as Cole said, I don't think it's going to be a blowout, and I like both teams. Like, neither team, they don't have anybody on that team that I can't stand, right? So it's going to be an enjoyable game to watch. But as far as the writer in me goes, like, I love to write about stuff. I can't help it. The writer in me says, my goodness, like, there's 3 really good redemption stories on the Rams. Yeah, Matthew Stafford, all those years on the Lions, so talented.
Right.
Made the playoffs once or twice, if that, right?
Yep.
OBJ, whether you like OBJ or you hate him, I don't care. The fact is, that's another great story. Here's a guy who always said, get me a quarterback, I can make something happen. And everybody was like, well, what? He's never done anything in the playoffs. Now he has. He's having a great playoffs. And obviously somebody near and dear to my own heart, Von Miller, as a huge Denver Broncos fan. The Broncos and me, yes, I realize he's won one before. He made Cam Newton's life a living hell in that Super Bowl. And every time I think about it, I smile. But I think about that too, right? Here's a guy with Von Miller who really the Broncos should have never got rid of him. They did. They got a good haul back. But regardless, like, this was a guy who was a good teammate,
Right.
And all of a sudden he's gone. So I like Von Miller a lot. I like to see that story. I'd like to see when a guy can win multiple Super Bowls with multiple teams.
Yeah.
Again, you don't really see it with the exception of Tom Brady and a few other guys at quarterback. But it does happen on defense. You see a lot of defensive guys, switch teams over the years and somehow wind up back in the Super Bowl. So it's going to be a fun one. The whole thing with OBJ playing for the Browns, I don't care. If again, that's your reason, then that's your reason. It's okay. But to me, that means nothing. I'm one of those guys that I root for you when you're here. When you leave, unless you did something so stupid before you left, like I wish you the best, and it's all good. To me, looking back at it, just to kind of cap off that whole point, looking over the years, for me this would be Super Bowl number 40 that I've seen, probably number 35 that I'm going to remember. There's been very few times where I sat there fuming when a guy won. Obviously one of them was Ray Lewis and the Ravens, and then when he did it again, I was even more mad. And then obviously the time when the Broncos lost and didn't just lose but got destroyed by the Seattle Seahawks. Those ones stung. But other than that, like, it should be an enjoyable game. And if you're a football fan and you wouldn't be watching the show if you weren't, I think you're in for a good game this year.
Yeah. Well, let us know who you think's going to win this. Again, we both made our points. We both think the Rams are going to come away with it in a close game. So feel free to leave a comment. Let us know who you think's going to come away with the Super Bowl this year, either the Bengals or the Rams. And for everybody who's watched and listened, again, we want to thank you once again for being with us all year, really half a year once again of this show. We have a great time with it. Again, I'm looking forward to next year. We're going to have a great time this spring working on some draft things. I know I can't wait for our draft show. There's going to be a lot coming up. Football season is definitely not done after the Super Bowl. A lot more to come here this spring. And again, we are looking forward as well. So any last things you want to bring up?
I just want to thank you. This is Cole. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody else. This is a blast. And you mentioned the high school football and all the different things coming up with the draft and college and everything. When you look at how long this has gone on, I mean, we started this show. It's amazing to me because when you look at it, like, earlier today, guys, and you're already on YouTube, so go check it out. The amazing videos this guy put together of Division 1, 3, and 4 of the Ohio State high school playoffs. Amazing, right? And again, I was looking at these and tweeting them out and everything, and started thinking to myself, I'm like, my goodness, that was the first week of December.
Yeah,
it's been it seemed like just yesterday, right? So when you look at everything, you figure high school football starts for us third week of August this year. The state championships, my goodness, 2 months ago, and here we are. We're still not done with the Super Bowl. So football is such a big part of what we do, and to be able to have that sponsor, even by
Right.
Climate Tech Inc. Amazing the fact that they've already re-upped for another year before this one's even done, and they did that in like October. So just absolutely incredible. We want to thank
Yeah.
them, and we want to thank everybody else too. YouTube is it seems like it's the way of the future. We love doing this. We would do
Yeah.
this with 2 cups and a string if we had to, but with Keon Sports, it's up to us to go ahead and give you guys the best product we can. So we have the right minds on board, and everybody cooking away. So again, we want to thank everybody. It's been a tremendous ride. We mentioned that Rams Super Bowl before. I look back at it and smile because that Super
Yeah.
Bowl with the Rams and the Patriots, even though it stunk, Keon Sports at that point, Keon Sports was like 6 weeks old. So to see here we are, and will now be, I think, the 4th Super Bowl or whatever we've covered at Keon Sports. Just a blast, and we want to thank everybody again. So Cole, we're at your house today. I'll let you take us home.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, make sure to actually like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, make sure to watch those highlight videos that were referenced as well. Again, that will keep you in the football mood coming into this weekend. I know Vince was chomping at the bit again for high school football season already, and we are a ways away. So again, everybody, stay warm, stay safe, stay healthy. Again, we're looking forward to being back with you here in the fall, and make sure to check out any of our other work on the website as well, keonsports.com.